Welcome to the Metapod, the Pokemon podcast that revolves around the evolving meta, the TCG podcast that does that. I'm Jake, your host, along here with my co-host, Sean. How are you doing today, Sean?
I am good, Jake. I am good. I know that all the pods last week, I will say this, all the pods last week did their Halloween special, all the Pokepods, and we did not. But we record on Halloween. So
exactly.
I am currently at least in costume as Naruto. For those of you who are listening and not watching, I have a very bad Naruto onesie on right now.
What? No, I was able to tell instantly who you were.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's even got like the pant part, everything.
Yeah, you got the bandage on the knee.
The cheap, yeah, and then the cheapest like headband. I'm gonna take the headband part off though, Jake.
Yeah, it looks a little loose.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look. But, anywho, I am good, Jake. Happy Halloween.
Good. Happy Halloween to you too. I am dressed as someone who is in pain, tired, overworked. You know, the usual. That's the usual here on this podcast. But I'm also dressed as a Pokemon TCG podcast host because we got a lot to cover today. And when I say a lot, Sean, the time has come. The time has come to go over Silver Tempest, the English set review. Did you go to any pre-releases this past weekend?
I did not. No. A lot of the locals around me actually are doing the pre-releases next weekend, and I think it was probably because of Halloween weekend, right? It's like...
Oh, you know what? You're probably right.
Yeah, so a lot of the places around me are doing it next weekend. But, I did see a lot of people posting pictures, and, it looks cool, and excited to, get into this set list because... I keep hearing there's a couple of cars that are absolutely broken that people are posting about on Twitter. So
well, just about every card is broken in this set, Sean. We have to hype. If we hype up every card, then we're right at least once.
You know what? I like that. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if all you do is take shots,
you would die.
Well,
I mean, anyways, first, before we get into the podcast, we're going to do our lovely 5-star review. If you love the podcast or if you hate the podcast, let us know how we're doing over on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. Leave a review how we're doing. Believe it or not, we still look at the reviews and we still adjust the pod. But this one today is from Zacatakia. I'm McLovin' it. It's really funny because I had McDonald's tonight.
Okay.
So I didn't do this on purpose. Started listening as I got back into collecting again. Great podcast to keep yourself in the loop and to keep yourself entertained when working as a custodian. Also, the Mickey D's Hollow Rowlet is the best McDonald's card. Let's go. Zacatakia can be trusted. I also love that's how they came up with the title, I assume, of McLovin' it.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it's good to hear more people out there on your side about the McDonald's promos, the Rowlet.
I know. Some people think I'm crazy, but I think I have correct opinions from time to time.
You have good taste. It's clearly all it is.
And you know what? If you like a card in Silver Tempest, you probably have good taste as well because there are 246 cards coming in this set. 195 cards in the main set, Sean. 21 secret rares and 30 trainer gallery cards. It's one less card from Lost Origin.
Oh, how wonderful. One less.
Oh, yes. Well, a lot of Dodrio Vs incoming, in my booster box, but not, well, okay, maybe. But anyways, it's also worth noting in here that this is going to be the last set that has a trainer gallery. Sean, official documentation from Pokemon says Silver Tempest proudly concludes the trend of including trainer gallery. This is reported by PokeBeach.com. So I'm gonna ask you this, Sean. How do you feel about trainer gallery going away?
I think that I saw something over the weekend in Japan when they were talking about some of the new sets after Silver Tempest stuff. And they have a new rarity called AR and SAR, like art rare and special art rare or secret art rare.
Yes, I do remember seeing that.
So I think that the trainer gallery, I think it was a wonderful idea, to be frank. Like the trainer gallery kind of goes all the way back to the Cosmic Eclipse days. They may not have called it Trainer Gallery at the time. I can't remember. But like,
I don't think they put it in a subset at all.
No, they
in
didn't.
Cosmic Eclipse. I think they were just there.
Yeah, but I think that's how it started, right?
Yes,
and I think this
exactly.
idea of having a trainer with the Pokemon, really cool. And I think it's, I'm sure creatively it's just time to like figure out a new special art style. So I do.
Yeah, I mean, this is the last Sword and Shield set.
Right. So I don't know. I think though that over time, I would say like if you're looking to do any sort of collecting of a certain era of cards, I think saying like, hey, for my first collection, if I want to build something up, I'm going to actually focus on only the Trainer Gallery cards because they're all really interesting. They are various levels of price, right? Like there's some Trainer Gallery cards that are not really that expensive, so you can get a quick head start. They're all new.
Most of them are really cheap.
Yeah, they're all relatively new, so like, now's the time to do it. And I think it'd be like a cool set if you're like, because not everybody can afford or wants to do master sets. I think a lot of people don't necessarily even know like which Pokemon they want to collect because it's like, these are cool, these are cool. I think this would be a cool little collection for somebody to put together. So I'm a big fan, but I know there'll be more stuff in the future. So
I have super mixed feelings about it. Like I said, it's the last Sword and Shield main set. So obviously, because Trainer Gallery has been a thing since, oh gosh, it's at least a year, right?
I think
It'll be about a year.
I think the Trainer Gallery stuff started in the Rapid Strike stuff, maybe.
I think it was that. I think it was after that.
Okay.
I think it's right. Anyways, the second half of Sword and Shield, right? That was the gimmick. That was the thing, and I don't know. It just made opening booster boxes so much more fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like Brilliant Stars was an incredible fun set to open. The last, like Lost Origin, incredible fun set to open. Like we got so many good things because you would get like 16 hits in a booster box. And sure, a lot of the Trainer Gallery cards, that would get like 4 or 5 extra hits out of or something like that, they would be worth like $1, right? They're not money cards or whatever, but like pulling those cards, so beautiful. Like the art is just so good on all of them.
And the fact that some of those cards, I know before, I think it was Salt Lake City Regional, somebody tweeted like, what's the max rarity version of Crobat, right? Is it the full art? Is it the shiny? Is it the Trainer Gallery? And I think people were kind of torn. They were like, well, I mean, maybe by price it's this one, but like honestly, like the Trainer Gallery is the best looking.
Yeah, like that art slaps.
Yeah, and it's like the fact that there is a card that you can pull in the reverse slot that is that cool is great because you could get a 2-hit pack really.
And then also like you're opening a set and then all of a sudden you get a gold and black like Mew VMAX.
Yeah.
When Mew VMAX is one of the best decks right now that you can play. So it's super cool because I mean the Trainer Gallery Mew wasn't in the Fusion Strike set.
No.
Right? So it breaks my heart, but you're talking, the AR and stuff like that, the art rares. I think that basically will replace, and I just hope that like they'll stay in that kind of style of maybe not necessarily a subset, but you'll pull a couple of them in your booster box or whatever. So not necessarily taking the place of like an ultra rare alternate art, because you get like one of those per box or something like that. I just want to be able to pull them and collect them and not have to pay hundreds of dollars.
Yep. Nope. Fully agree with you on that. But Jake.
But Sean, you know what you won't have to spend hundreds of dollars on?
I don't know. Maybe the set review.
I was gonna say most of the car. Yeah, you won't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars on listening to this set review of Silver Tempest. I lost my train of thought there for a moment. But anyway, Sean, which card do you want to talk about first?
Well, I don't know if anything before the Superior actually is any good. So if you don't mind, I'll just jump straight into Superior VStar. So yeah, Superior VStar. There's the V that, it's a grass type Pokemon. The V is pretty basic. There's actually not really a lot it does, to be frank. So I'm just going to jump straight
You
into
use
the
it to
VStar.
evolve.
Yeah, that's basically,
Yeah.
you know, some of the Vs, they have interesting attacks or whatever. No, this one, there's nothing
It
here.
just evolve.
But the VStar, 270 HP, so kind of normal, middling. For grass and 2 colorless, Royal Tornado, 190 damage. Move any amount of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon in any way you like. And it's interesting that it's from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon. It doesn't say from this Pokemon. So the interesting thing about that attack is if you're going with this, you can kind of just shuffle your energy around. However, and it doesn't say move any amount of grass energy. It just says move any amount of energy, right? So that I think is an interesting like little, you know, shake up there. It kind of reminds me a bit of Gardevoir and Sylveon moving the fairy energy around, but less restrictive, right? And then it's V-Star Attack. This one has an attack for the V-Star ability. Does Coiling Star 60 times damage. It's 1 grass energy, but it does 60 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. And then you get to switch it with one of your bench. So the nice thing there, you can wind up, take a big knockout, get 6 energy on it, right? And then switch it with something that is only going to give up 1 prize, some sort of random bench sitter, right? And then you can protect as much of that energy as best you can. Maybe you even throw that, like, you know, item card onto this that prevents it from being affected by your opponent's supporter card, so they can't boss it up or use another supporter. We'll see later. So I don't know. Overall, like, it seems like an interesting card. I am not sure how it's going to fare in the format. I don't hear a lot of hype about this card, but Jake, what are your thoughts?
I think that the attacks have really good synergy with each other, right? I mean, you can move around a whole bunch of energies and be able to just punch for a lot of damage if you need to. And I mean, the Royal Tornado is doing 190 in itself, and that's not really knocking out any Vs unless you have like a choice spell onto it or something of the sort, which with a double colorless first attack, maybe you don't even use the choice spell. Maybe you're attaching double turbo energy onto this, right? So you can make it a 2 attachment kind of attack that you can go. And that doesn't even begin to describe Gardenia's favor. Is it favor or vigor?
Oh, Gardenia's vigor, yeah.
Yeah, that supporter, which you could see a little bit of play in this. Not to mention as well, we still have access to Turffield Stadium for the rest of the year, so that grabs, you know, your grass evolution. And also, we have seen time and time again with the Lost Zone engine, right? Mirage Gate's a really, really good card. So if you just comfy 7 times, you get some early attackers in the Cramorant, Sableye, maybe even you can do, but you can use that Mirage Gate to just accelerate a bunch of energies, and maybe you don't have to use Royal Tornado. Maybe you can just Coiling Star into what you want to do. And Coiling Star, well, you can put in like a Milk Tank if you want in front, do a little bit of stalling. I don't know if you want to do that in the Lost Zone engine, because do you have enough pieces for that? But it's a possibility. And if you're doing the Lost Zone engine as well, you could feed in like a 1 prizer if you want, like the Comfey, and still force your opponent to use Boss or something like that. You know, you could rope into another Comfey or whatever. So it's interesting, I feel like. I don't think it's going to be good, and I don't know if it's going to be the best V-Star out of this set or the best, you know, attacker out of this set. But I think it's an interesting mon that could do some playing around with, maybe sneak up on some people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, I don't know if it's like a lead Pokemon in a deck. I don't know. I could be very wrong, but like Palkia, you see Palkia and you're like, no, this is your main thing, right? But I will say this one does have 0 retreat cost as a V-Star. So always something to consider if you're going to be playing a deck that can accelerate energy, that's playing grass energy in any form, right? Being able to like say, okay, well, I have an attack available to me on a free retreating Pokemon that can do 300 damage if I need, that can do 360 damage if I need. That is pretty valuable depending on what you're up against. So, you know, we'll see. I think, you know, this card might make appearances here and there if the meta is right. That's where this card lands.
And I mean, Coiling Star to do 300 damage, you need 5 energies attached to it. And that's without any damage modifiers or anything like that. So honestly, with, like I was saying, Gardenia's Vigor, with Mirage Gate and just Royal Tornado in general, maybe that's not out of the realm of ordinary. And it's each energy attached to the Pokemon as well. So it's not even grass energies.
Yeah.
You can put the double turbo on it. You can put any sort of energies on this Pokemon. So also very curious, Sean.
Yeah. Jake.
I will say, I do want to go up to the Arya Dose real quick.
Yeah.
Just because it has an ability, it's a 90 HP grass stage 1 Pokemon that you can easily level ball for. String of Shade. As long as this Pokemon is in play, the attacks of your opponent's V-Star cost colorless more. Can't apply more than 1 turn. I think this is just super intriguing to the V-Stars that we have in the format, whether that's Arceus, right? Arceus, very prevalent on the 2-turn part, so forcing them to maybe get 2 double turbo energies or something like that. Something like in a Zoro box, where you're already using a bunch of level balls, where you're already discarding a lot. I don't know. Could be kind of cheeky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially like, I don't know if this is another card that Sander might be looking at to be like, if I have,
yes.
Yeah, if I have a way to like discard your energy, stall you out for a little bit, and then stick something like this in the active. I think the problem with this one is that it only applies to V-Star. And that's not to say V-Star are everywhere, right? There's a lot of V-Star, but it's not a V-Star? Mew VMAX. It's not a V-Star? Kyurem. Like, there's enough Pokemon that aren't V-Stars that are still being played with regularity that's why this one is like, it should have just said your opponent's Pokemon V. Personally, I think that would have been a not overrate, because it already says you can't apply more than one of this ability at a time. Leave it at Pokemon V. Let it be powerful. Let it be a powerful bench-sitting Pokemon. I don't know.
Let it be a lot of fun, like a Mungus, the 12th card in this set. Also a 90 HP stage 1 evolves from Fungus. It has the ability called Prank Spores, and I don't know if it's good or not, but I think that this is such an obscure ability. I just want to talk about it. Whenever this card is discarded from your hand, by the effect of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks or abilities, or by the effect of your opponent's item card or supporter card, discard all cards from your opponent's hand. Huh? Like, somebody was like, what have we not ever made before? And they were like, let's do this.
I'm trying to think of what, like, I think in Expanded or maybe Gym Leader, this would be really broken.
Yeah, I mean, well, like if you're facing up against a Mars, right?
That's my
Someone
thought.
uses Mars, but I mean, I don't really think that people use Mars in Expanded.
But I mean,
I don't know. I haven't looked at Expanded in a long time.
I don't know. But I mean, like this. I mean, being able to say you can discard your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's an interesting card. I don't see where it fits into Standard.
This is where you've got like the 5 cards in your hand, right? And your opponent chooses this card, and you've got like one raised really high. You're like, oh, don't take that one. Like, and it's the Mungus.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not really sure where this goes. Like, I guess if Malamar VMAX gets super popular, but like, yeah.
Not even then, though, because it says discarded from your hand. Malamar just puts it back into the deck.
Oh, true. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah,
I don't know, but this is a
cool.
wild ability. Pokemon really reaching for that one. But Sean, what do you think is another cool card to look at?
I don't think the Chestnut V is anything. Well, I mean, for me, I would go all the way to Radiant Serena. Here, Radiant Serena. We'll just talk about it as we talk about all the Radiant Pokemon. This one has the ability Elegant Treatment. Once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon, and then it does have an attack. The attack's pointless. Don't worry about it. I'm like, don't matter. But this one is interesting because I think that this one might start to compete with Radiant Gardevoir for those tankier style decks. Now, the difference for those of you listening, Radiant Gardevoir lessens the amount of damage that your active Pokemon V, I believe, take by 20.
I'll double check you on the wording.
But basically, it's like it reduces damage taken, whereas this heals damage after the fact. So this isn't going to help you if whatever is up there is getting one shot. But
yes,
the fact that this heals 20 from each of your Pokemon really helps. If you're up against a deck like, a Lost Zone deck with Sableye, or, the Inteleon with Quick Shooting, whatever it might be, this is a super annoying card for them to have to deal with. And it's got 140 HP, so it's hard for it to be knocked out by damage counter placement itself. And it doesn't say each of your other Pokemon, so it would heal damage from itself, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it would say each of your Pokemon. So that's any Pokemon that you have that's on the field that has any sort of damage counter on it. So very interesting. You were right about Gardevoir, by the way, preventing from Pokemon V. I don't know about this. If you have a longer type of game, then yes, for sure, it is definitely better than Gardevoir. Because you think of something like Mew VMAX or something, they only have so many damage modifiers before then they start just two-shotting you, or, if you're Hisuian Gudra VStar, maybe like three-shotting you. So it's very interesting, and I don't really know which one I feel like would be better. I think, it's 140 HP grass, but you're never going to use the grass attack. I don't know. Maybe it's just a coin flip.
This is why I'm like, it just depends on the math, right? If the math says you need to take less damage to not get one shot, because the Radiant Gardevoir, if it's over 2 turns, right, you are preventing effectively 40 damage. That's something. This one can heal 40 damage, but it's on the after of those 2 turns. So I think it really just depends on if you can turn a 1-shot into a 2-shot or a 2-shot into a 3-shot with Gardevoir. I think you go with Gardevoir. If, however, you have a pretty tanky deck, or if the meta is Pokemon only doing things like, 170 damage, right, where it's like you don't really have to survive a 1-shot like that, I think it's a math game. But I do like that there's sort of 2 options that you can play around with and let the meta decide which one is the right one.
I will say, though, looking at Reshiram V, well, we talked about the Rapidash in a previous episode, because that's going to be one of the pre-release promos from Silver Tempest. So if you want to listen to that about that Pokemon and our thoughts, check out the last episode. But Reshiram V is an interesting one. 220 HP, fire Pokemon basic. Fire energy, 1 fire energy, Gleaming Wings. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon in play, then shuffle your deck. For fire, colorless, white blaze, 200 damage. Flip a coin. If tails, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn, which, whatever. Don't even think about that last clause there. Interesting, though, in that last clause, but I feel like some people could be excited for this, especially when you talk about, the combination with Rapidash, right? And some other Pokemon that you could have in from this set. But just the first attack, you can't use it, right? Because this meta's too fast.
I would have been on board with this one if it did 20 damage.
If it did 20 damage?
20 damage, and you get the ability. No, don't get me wrong. Accelerating 2 energy with an attack is not bad for only 1 fire energy. So if you go second, you can go from 1 energy on board to 3 energy on board, maybe more, depending on if you're playing other energy acceleration, right?
Magma Basin,
any sort of supporters that might attach energy, because you don't
get those Heatran going.
Yeah, but like, you don't have to have fire energy necessarily. It could be fire and other energy, right? It's too basic. So this is a good energy acceleration engine, but you're potentially giving up 2 prizes to do it, which feels terrible.
Why don't you just Comfey twice and then Mirage Gate? It's just like...
Or if it had said 2 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon however you like, as opposed to 1 Pokemon, because what you've basically done then is you've made 1 Pokemon a target. So I think if they'd given it some amount of damage, even if it's just 20 damage, because you never know, that 20 damage could set up a knockout on the return, on the swing back, right? On the crack back. So, yeah.
Does your opinion change if it says 3 basic energy?
Yes.
Yes? You think so?
Yes.
Because then you could Charizard, Radiant Charizard.
You could.
Braveheart or whatever it is.
3 energy, though, that turns it into... it's basically the same attack as the Arceus V. The Arceus V for 2 colorless, I think, searches your deck for 3 energy and puts them onto your Pokemon. So I think for 1 less energy, but being specific to fire, I don't know. Yeah, this just seems weirdly weak. That's all I'll say.
I don't think it's super great. But Sean, do you think anything's got some noise that it could make?
Really. I mean, I will say real quick, I don't think this card will be played, but Delphox, the stage 2, its second attack for 2 colorless, 50 times damage, 50 damage for each energy your opponent has in play. I mean, there's a lot of Arceus decks out there. A lot of 6 energy, on the field plays there. So I don't think it'll see play because it's a stage 2, but 300 damage is nothing to scoff at.
But you could, Sean, the breaks in. Do you remember that Charizard deck? That
Radiant?
with the no, the regular Charizard deck that has the Leon in it.
Yeah.
The more Leon in the discard, the more damage you do. Breaks in the 90 HP stage 1 Pokemon can do basically that same thing for 2 colorless. So a twin energy, Sean, a double turbo energy. Flame Parade, 60 times damage. This attack does 60 damage for each Serena in your discard pile. So doing 240 without any damage modifiers, 270, right? 280 with a Goon Ping. That knocks out an Arceus VStar. Ha ha ha! And you can quick ball this bad
level ball
Pokemon. Or I'm sorry, level ball.
It's interesting. Like, and
you only have to evolve once. You don't have to rare candy. You don't have to, do any stage 2 shenanigans. You could do a pretty decent punch.
It's true.
With just the breaks in.
But Jake.
And plus the Colress engine is just so good. We've talked about it like every week.
But the problem with this, you have to play Force Serena in your deck.
You don't have to play Force Serena.
But then you're not doing much damage.
No. Okay, let me rephrase that.
That's the problem.
Let me rephrase that. You do have to play Force Arena, but you don't have to play Force Arena. You can play the discard Force Arena.
I mean,
you can do that.
But I'm almost like, would I rather have Force Arena or 4 Battle VIP Pass as dead cards mid-game? I'd take the Battle VIP Pass, to be frank. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But I don't know. I don't know if there's too much more in the fire category.
Let's talk about Incineroar real quick before we continue on to water. It's a stage 2, evolves from Torcat, 170 HP, big cat. The first attack for a fireless energy, secret attack. Choose an attack from one of this Pokemon's previous evolutions and use it as this attack. The second attack on this Pokemon to fire is Flare Shot for 180 damage. Discard all energy from this Pokemon. You can easily refill that with like Magma Basin or something, but your Incineroar is probably getting knocked out next turn. Anyways, focusing on the secret attack, the first one, again, choose an attack from one of this Pokemon's previous evolutions and use it as this attack. There's an interesting attack on Torracat, the 80 HP Fire Stage 1 Pokemon that evolves from Litten. For 2 Fire, it's Gritty Claws, 40 damage. During your opponent's next turn, if this Pokemon has full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an attack, it is not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10. So, Sean, as I was talking about earlier, right, with, being able to get 2 energy very easily from Magma Basin and just attaching on your turn, what's to stop you from healing all of this off? Healing all the damage off and then just Magma Basing it back on. Well, actually, that wouldn't work because then you wouldn't have full HP and then being knocked out by an attack.
There is a couple of cards. There's a card coming out. I think it's a Super Jelly that if you have 30 or less HP remaining on the Pokemon, you heal 120 and you get rid of that item card attached to it. So you could do that plus like a Team Yell cheer or something, like the one that heals 50. And that's enough to heal it up all the way. I almost think. I don't know, something like that. It's really close.
I think that's the towel, the Team Yell's towel.
Yeah. So that would heal, I think, 170. And so, if you do that a couple of turns, super annoying. But I will also say, I'm glad you actually pointed this card out, because the interesting thing about the Litten, if you leave it at 10 HP when you attack, Reprisal does 20 time for each damage counter on the Pokemon. So if it's at 170, it goes down to 10 HP left. That's 16 times 2. That's 320 damage.
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. So, like, and the thing is, you don't actually need 2 energy, because if you're using Secret Attack, Jake, you could do it for 1 energy on either of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. This actually, I could see this being a card that people play around with.
There's a really cool thing that you can do with this line, and I need someone to top 8 a regional with it.
I mean, I don't know.
That's a big ask.
I will say, though, it's not that resource intensive, because, yeah, like you do.
You just have to evolve.
Yeah, you really just have to evolve. You want to get it up to. And the nice thing about it is, if you can swing with the Torracat, then the Torracat cannot die, basically. Like, what you're telling me is, like, if the Torracat has no damage and they don't have, like, a, zigzag. Once the Zigzagoon ping comes down, you're screwed. But other than that.
But how many people are playing Zigzagoon right now?
Right.
Nobody's playing quick shooting either.
So, yeah, this could be really interesting, Jake. I like this.
I think it's cheeky. And you know me. I like cheeky. And this podcast always points out the cheeky. But Sean, what's another card that we should look at real quick?
I mean, Alolan Vulpix. I know.
Of course.
This is one that Jake is
love
very excited.
Alolan Vulpix as a Pokemon. Now, Sean, before I mention anything else about Alolan Vulpix, let's talk about what this card actually does. Do you want to go or do you want me?
Oh, you're the one excited, so please, Jake.
All right, Alolan Vulpix VStar. It's a water Pokemon, 240 HP. Very small. I think I'm pretty sure it's the smallest VStar by like 30 HP or
maybe
something like that.
20,
I think the
but
lowest is yeah. It's low. Anyways, it's got 2 things on it. The first one is a regular attack. Water, colorless. Colorless is the cost. 160 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. During your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon from Pokemon with abilities. That also includes V-Star power abilities in that little fact. So that's interesting. Not only doing the 160 damage, but also having that second clause of preventing damage done to this Pokemon with abilities. So very cool, very interesting. Can't get hit by Palkia, can't get hit by Kyurem, can't get hit by well, you can get hit by a lot of Regidex, but
yeah.
There are plenty of things running around with abilities. No Charizards to take you out. Mew is a little bit more trickier. You're going to have to do a little bit of different things with that, because let me tell you, they only need 1 damage modifier to knock you out. So that's a little tough.
I mean, I will say the only problem with this attack, before you get to the second attack, is I'm pretty sure a path to the peak would mean that even something with an ability,
yes,
that's a Pokemon,
yes, because that,
hit it.
Yeah, it's very hard to explain. But yes, because people would play decks like that would have abilities on like the GXs and things like that, but then play Power Plant.
Yep.
So then you can play Green's Exploration.
Yeah.
That was a dark time. Sean.
So yeah, a path to the peak would make it so that the Pokemon with abilities don't have abilities, so then they would be able to hit through. And it's all weird. People do weird stuff to get around walls like this. But Jake, what is the second attack on this?
The second attack is the V-Star power, and it's completely free. You don't have to have any energy attached to be able to use this attack. It's 70 times damage. This attack does 70 damage times the number of your opponent's Pokemon V. That means that you are whacking a Mew VMAX, right? That would be 5 Pokemon on the field. That's 350 damage. That's a lot of damage. Keep in mind, what if they ever have 6 on the field because they just don't know what your card does? That's a lot of damage. Sean, what is that, 420?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, if they had 6, yeah, it'd be 420 damage.
That's insane.
Even if there's only 4 Vs on the field, right? Like,
it's still 280.
Yeah, which is enough to knock out a Palkia or a Arceus. So, like, Yeah, like this is a good sneaky little, and it's the fact that it's 0 energy to do this. Now I will say any knowledgeable opponent will see this coming a mile away because literally it's an evolution,
Yeah.
and like you're going to evolve into it. But the fact that it doesn't need energy means you can actually set this up as a threat as well as something else, and then your opponent is in this weird position of like once they've put the V's down, there's not a lot they can do. So they
can't really pick them back up.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I do like this. I wonder how it competes with other VStar attacks and abilities, But the nice thing about this, actually, I'm thinking about this. This is nice because you could squeeze this into a deck that doesn't actually care about water energy. Because you're like, if I don't care about any of that, the only thing that this is going to do is the VStar power. Maybe I throw in like 1 or 2 water energies to do Snow Mirage if I need to. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you could put this in a deck that doesn't normally use that kind of attack. I don't know. Interesting.
I wonder if it could also see its way into like Palkia and Kyurem as like a 1/1.
Yeah, like if you don't need to use the Palkia ability, right? Like that's fine. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's kind of cheeky, but John, what else are we gonna talk about today?
2 cards. I'm looking at the Omastar V. This one's bad. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It ain't good. It's got like it sets up fossil Pokemon, but like nah. That ain't
fossils.
It. I mean, fossils are cool.
Get the Dracovish out.
But that ain't it, dog. That ain't it.
The Wailord has 200 HP and has an ability that says this Pokemon takes 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. Cool.
Yeah, you still get knocked out.
Big beefy boy. Big beefy boy.
Oh my gosh. I'm really trying to find single prizers that seem particularly interesting, but
I don't know, Sean. Relicanth, the 90 HP basic water Pokemon's got Fossil Search for 1 colorless energy. Shuffle up to 4 in any combination of unidentified fossil and rare fossil from your discard pile into your deck. Just churning those fossils, baby.
It's bad. It's all bad. Okay. I'm just really going ahead here and going straight into the lightning Pokemon. I will say, this one is kind of interesting. I don't know what deck this would actually be in, but the Pikachu has Pika Strike 20+. If you are to Dene, use Day Short during your last turn. This attack does 180 more damage. So that's 200 damage for 1 energy on a basic Pikachu. That might be the most powerful Pikachu we've ever seen. Which is
except for like the VMAX ones, right?
Sure, yeah. So now I have no idea what Day Short is in terms of the attack, but
I will say Day Short was part of the. Oh no, that's Day Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dang. You know what? I don't really. Is it Day Shot and not Day Short?
It might be. That might be a typo that PokeBeach did on purpose.
I think so, because Day Short, this is part of Paradigm Trigger, the Japanese set. It has an electric energy attack that says, you may use this attack only if your Togedemaru used Toge Dash during your last turn. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. So, Sean, what? I believe there's a Is there not a Togedemaru in the set? Are we having to bounce around sets? All right.
Okay. I give up.
Oh gosh.
I give up on this.
I am determined now about this this Wombo combo, because do you remember the Hitmon deck?
Yeah. You had Hitmonlee, Hitmontop, Hitmonchan, and you had to do it in a certain order, and then you could get the Hitmontop out.
Yes, and Togedemaru, which is part of Paradigm Trigger as well, has a lightning energy attack. Flip a coin. If heads during your opponent's next turn, they take no prizes for knocking out this Pokemon, and it does 10 damage. So you can do the whole Wombo combo, right? Because you go Togedemaru to Dene into Pikachu, and you can just do a bunch of damage, just like the good old days with the Wombo combo.
That is really interesting. You if you flip right, you get like no prize. So even if you kill it, it doesn't matter. Then you go in, you
You get to use that
paralyze them.
flipping stadium too.
Yeah, you can go in and then you paralyze them. And with paralysis, they have to have a switching card or else they're stuck. And then you come in with the Pikachu, hit him for 200, smack him in the face.
Hit him with the big 200,
You hit him
baby.
with the 200. No.
Hit him with the 200.
This is bad. Okay.
It's gonna be bad, but let me have my fun, Sean.
I think we can move on to Regieleki VMAX.
Regieleki VMAX. I know some people are very excited about this card. It's a 310 HP VMAX Electric Pokemon. Evolves from Regieleki V. The V has some attacks to it. For one lightning energy, 30 damage. Switch this with one of your bench Pokemon. Could be a good way to do a little switcheroo if you don't want to commit too much. And then lightning, colorless, 100 damage during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon takes 100 less damage from attacks. So very, very interesting in my opinion. But the Eleki VMAX has an ability that says Transitor. The attacks of your basic lightning Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is where you want to try to get these one prize basic lightning Pokemon in play. The Pikachu! Kidding.
Or Vikavolt.
Vikavolt, you can do the Vikavolt V as well to combo with it. So then you're, what is it, Paralyzing Bolt or something like that? The attack that stops your opponent from playing items. You do more damage, apply more pressure onto that. But Regieleki VMAX's second attack is Max Thunder Strike. It's a lightning colorless attack for 220 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. It's a free retreat Pokemon, so take that with a grain of salt. All you need is a scoop up net, escape rope, switch, and you're working the magic, baby.
It's fair, yeah. Let me see. We have Radiant Alakazam now moving out of the lightning. This one has the ability, once during your turn, you may move 2 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon. And then it has Mind Ruler, 20 times damage for each card in your opponent's hand. Whatever, it's fine. If you're hitting something for
20
psychic,
damage for each card.
Yeah, if you're hitting something for psychic weakness and say your opponent has a full grip of like 7 or more cards, like that's going to be doing enough for knockout for 2 energy, which is not bad. So like this one I think is situational. The moving the damage counters is really interesting because I could see this really wrecking people's day, because I'm pretty sure if you use the ability, you scoop up net it, could you use the ability again?
I think you can, yes.
So you could move,
because it doesn't say you can. It doesn't say you can only use 1 spoonful of pain
per turn.
It just says once during your turn, move.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure you can use it if you scoop up net again.
So I think this is a really sneaky one to be like, if you're playing against the right deck, this is all math, right? But if the math works out, you could try to like set up a turn where you're taking 4 to 6 prizes in one turn. You know, get something that's a 3 prizer maybe, close to the end, right? And boom, Radiant Alakazam, 2, maybe 4 energy with a scoop up net. Knock it out, take 3 prizes, knock out whatever is in the active. Maybe you just win the game off of that, right? Like, the question, and the nice thing about that is it's 2 damage counters, and it's on a basic, so it's a little bit easier to get to than Quick Shooting and Teleon. Like, my brain goes to, like, what other things do we have that could basically do the same thing? But, I don't know. It's interesting.
I will say I've seen some people lately, because the Zeraora and Deoxys like high class deck things came out recently, and so I've been seeing some people play with Deoxys VMAX, and Deoxys VMAX I feel like is like just short a lot of times from 2-shotting Pokemon, especially the Pokemon that we have that are popular in format right now. So something like Radiant Alakazam could help you out to where if you hit them once or twice and they run, you can move some of the damage that gets spread around on the board and just cleanly take knockouts that way on the ones that you're just short.
Yeah, I do like that. So This one, I like all of these Radiant Pokemon seem to have, or most of them, I should say, seem to have kind of interesting things that make you think. I think Radiant Charizard is still my personal favorite. It's just that and Greninja. Greninja, just a draw engine where you're also discarding energy because there's so many things that interact with that. Like, still the best, but
Yeah,
interesting.
it's just I love it though. It's nice. But you know what else I love, Sean? The ability for Standard to have just an excellent time. And that may go along with Jinx, the 100 HP psychic basic Pokemon. It's got an ability, Selfish Lips. Sean, if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from your opponent, Pokemon V's attack your opponent doesn't take a prize card. Ho, ho, ho! There's a lot of V Pokemon in this format, Sean. V's, V-Stars, V-Maxes.
Now,
I like it.
I will say, I want to know if Shred, you know those Shred effects that says ignore all effects of your opponent's Pokemon? But it's on the damage, so I wonder, does that affect taking the prize card too, or no?
I don't think it does. So
Yeah.
Mew VMAX, the damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's just the damage, right?
But not the fact that you're taking a prize card.
Yes. So even if Mew used Max Miracle and knocked out this Pokemon, it still would not take a prize card, to my understanding of this.
I mean, this could be because the fact that it's a basic, because there is the Trevenant that's in format as well, that effectively does a similar thing. But obviously, Trevenant is an evolution, right? So you're like, you know, you have to set something up, and if your opponent can finagle it so that there's no Trevenant, you know, basics, the basics that evolve into it on the board, then they're fine. But this could be super annoying. And, you know, I don't know. If this takes off, I could definitely see Lost City also becoming a very popular popular stadium, because then it's
Get
like
that card out of here. We've already started seeing it in Mew VMAX.
yeah. So interesting though. I do like this Jinx. A lot of interesting tools here for stall and control decks.
And you know what, Sean, in the Mismagius, if you want to put damage counters on places instead when your Pokemon get knocked out, Mismagius, the stage 1 90 HP Pokemon, has the ability Grudging Incantation. If this Pokemon is at max HP and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's Pokemon's attack, place 8 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon.
I do like this. So we'll get to a VStar attack later. That comes on an item card that I think could pair with a Mismagius deck really nicely. It's basically like a damage
let me know
spread.
When we hit it.
Yes, I will. But I mean, I'll just give it away. There's an attack that puts all of your opponent's Pokemon V at 100 HP. So if you can lower everything to 100 HP, and then you're putting 8 damage counters everywhere, and then in the late game, say you're playing that in a Lost Engine with Sableye. All right, 12 damage counters. Let's just take 6 prizes real easy.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yep. That radiant Alakazam looking real good right about now.
Yeah, looking real spicy.
So I don't know. The next card I want to look at is the Unknown V and VStar. Yeah.
We have to look at the V first.
We do. The V is wild. For 3 colorless energy, if you have only 1 prize card left when using this attack, you win. That's the stupidest line of text.
This is what Mew does. Mew has always had these abilities and clauses of like, if you have this condition on the board, you just win the game. Do you remember? I mean, there was a Salazzle deck that was like in Standard. My friend Ryan played it. There's a Salazzle deck that played Unknown, and it said if you have X amount of cards in your hand, you win the game. Right? And you had to get X or more cards. And the Mews do this, like all the Mews do this, and it's really funny. And I love it because
you mean unknowns. All the unknowns.
I'm sorry, yes, unknowns. All the unknowns do this, and it's super funny. I love this card.
This for me, it feels too easy, Jake.
You know what was too easy? What was too easy was using Blacephalon GX's GX attack
Yeah.
for 1 fire energy when you had 1 prize left. Or when you were in there was this one time I was in sudden death. Like we both of our Pokemon got knocked out at the same time and we both lost prizes at the same time. So they put us in sudden death and I was playing Blacephalon GX. So I just flipped over my active GX, attached to fire energy, and said, "GG's, I win." Like, it can't. It's not as easy as that because to get that victory symbol, you need 3 colorless energies, and so that's kind of like 2 attachments. I mean, you could go double turbo Melanie, right, as to get away from that and to do 1 attachment, but that's still like a little bit, and plus you have to get to 1 prize card left, which Mew, it's a 2 prize Pokemon, so it may be a little bit trickier to get there than you think. Or unknown. I keep saying Mew, it's unknown. They don't even look alike.
I mean, I guess, yeah, you have to basically, if you're attacking with only 1 prize left, the question is, how often do you attack with only 1 prize left that you're not going to win usually?
Yes.
You know, because it's like, well, unless the other side of the board is only giant tanks, or you just like, there's no way you could possibly have found a boss's order on the last turn, right? It is kind of a weird combo of situations, but I don't know. Maybe it's like a one of in decks that can accelerate that kind of energy, just to be like, hey, Hail Mary, you know, you don't have any other thing to do, like, and if I can get 3 energy on board, right? If it's at Giratina.
It doesn't matter if you got Duraludon VMAX or just the Hisuian Gudra where you can't knock it out. That's fine. You just cheese your way out of this game. But Sean, you know what else is crazy? Unknown VStar.
What does this do?
Unknown VStar is a 250 HP Psychic VStar Pokemon. It's got 2 things. The first one, a Psychic Energy attack, just a singular Psychic Energy attack. Tri-Power, flip 3 coins. This attack does 70 damage times the number of heads. But what's even cooler about this Pokemon is the 3 colorless V-Star power attack Star Cipher. Until this Pokemon leaves play, it gains an ability that has the effect all of your opponent's Pokemon's weakness is now Psychic. The amount of weakness doesn't change. This is like Aerodactyl, right? Where Aerodactyl is like, if you use this, Aerodactyl gains an ability so nobody else has abilities or whatever that was. This is like that. And it combos well with the Tri-Power, right? Although I will say 250 HP Unknown V is not that. It's not that big, right? It's literally, is it 10 less? It's 10 more than the Alolan Vulpix V. But if you could just keep it in play somehow, some way.
Sure.
You just hitting weakness left and right.
Sure. Yeah.
Because what is weak to Psychic right now in the format? Nothing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. There ain't nothing weak to Psychic, so like...
There's no fighting Pokemon out right now.
I don't know what you pair this card with. I genuinely don't. I like...
Arceus, what? I don't know.
Arceus ain't Psychic, though. So, like, everything has Psychic weakness.
That doesn't matter.
No, but I think that you don't want to...
Your opponent's Pokemon's weakness is now Psychic, not your weakness.
No, but you don't want to attack with the thing that used this attack, because then it's going to get knocked out, and then you lose the effect of the attack. So, this is where I'm like, what is this? Give it an ability and not an attack, because the second you attack with this, you have put a target on this specific card's back that says, please knock me out.
I mean, I think that this card is great. I think this whole line is great. I think it's wonderful. It's perfect, Sean. The world is balanced.
Okay, we'll move on to, is Mawile V-Star even worth it? The Mawile V is trash. Let's just be frank. The Mawile V-Star, it has 2 colors, Sudden Eater, 90 plus. If this Pokemon moves from your bench to your active, it does 90 more. So up to 180 for 2 colorless, which is like meh. What does the ability do?
Bad.
Yeah, it's
The
all right.
ability during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may use this ability. Switch this Pokemon with your active Pokemon. Then switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. It's basically a Guzma as an ability.
Okay, see that it's an interesting ability. Now the question is this the one V-Star ability thing that you're gonna do the whole game? Is Guzma like okay or
Guzma one time, so then you can do 180 damage.
right?
And that's assuming that you don't have a double turbo on.
Right. And like, oh, maybe you don't need to do 180. Maybe you're happy to just like retreat into whatever the thing you wanted to do was. But a little weird. But you know, hey, I don't know. What do
Guzma
I
was a
know?
good card for a long time, Sean.
That's true. You know, this could be really sneaky as an early gameplay because if your opponent has something on the bench that they, and you know, it's turn 2, but you went first. You attach a second energy. If you have any way of modifying your damage with like a choice belt or you know anything, then all of a sudden you're doing 210, which knocks out a lot of V's just straight up, or maybe a Goon Ping. This can change the tempo of the game pretty quickly, because yeah, you do this, you can still use, you know, any supporter card. Like I don't know, like I could see this being a tempo play early game, but yeah. Yeah.
It also, though, I will say, is it can still change the tempo of the game even if you don't knock out.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
You can still apply a lot of pressure to a Kyurem V, to a Palkia V. You know, like you can still apply a lot of things. The Mew V you'll be able to knock out maybe even if you've got the choice belt. You know, the what's that one Pokemon called? Genesect V, right? It's only got 170 HP, so you can just knock it out without any damage modifiers.
No,
so,
you're right.
I mean, yeah, you don't have to do it, but the Medicham, though, Sean, down below, well, the Metatite, the 60 HP basic Pokemon of it, has the ability, as long as this Pokemon's on your bench, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks of both yours and your opponent. So you can't get Moonlight Shuriken. It is safe on the bench from damage, but it could get gusted up. The Medicham is 120 HP Psychic Stage 1, has the ability Open Chakra. Chakra, Naruto. If you have exactly 4 cards in hand, this Pokemon's attack costs colorless less, making Eager Kick a free attack, 80 plus damage. If your opponent has a Pokemon VMAX in play, this attack does 90 more damage, so 170 for free if you get 4 cards. People like Grand Bull, where you gotta have 0 cards in your hand. Just do it. This is even better. It's 4.
But this adds another layer of complexity, which is I need to have exactly 4, and my opponent needs to have a Pokemon VMAX.
But Marnie,
which is worse than
right?
Grand Bull.
Marnie gives you 5. Just play 1 card, and then you're golden.
I'm not buying it, Jake. Not buying it.
Trying to make this podcast exciting.
Hey, I think there's a lot of exciting cards, but Medicham ain't it. That's my thoughts.
Well, then what is it,
What
Sean?
is it?
Or I guess I should say, what is the next one that we'll talk about?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of any of the psychic basics or any are like particularly interesting.
I will say you could go to the Dragapult. The stage 2, 150 HP Pokemon evolves from Dracloak. Has the psychic attack for 1 psychic energy, Dragon Launcher. You may discard any number of your bench Dreepy up to the number of your opponent's Pokemon in play. For each Dreepy discarded in this way, choose one of your opponent's Pokemon. This attack does 100 damage to each Pokemon chosen in this way. Don't apply weakness or resistance. Really interesting spread damage. You could discard 3 of them at once, and you can still chain a lot of these Dragapults because of something like Hisuian Zoroark.
Yep.
Right? You just go get the Dracloaks again every time, and there are the little carriers, right? The little rescue carriers and ordinary rods and stuff, because Dreepy is only a 60 HP Pokemon.
Yeah.
Claras, things like that to get these Pokemon back. So kind of cool for spread, I feel like.
Yeah. I really actually like that. The rescue carrier idea, like if you can manage to get a couple of these off in a game and combo it with some other stuff, this actually I think is really powerful, right? It
A
is
lot
very
of- I mean,
complicated, but
Yes, it is very complicated. And, with the Zorak method that I was talking about, you could discard 4 at a time, right? You could do a full discard of 4 reasonably at many points. So it's kind of cool that, because a lot of decks right now kind of fill their bench right now. That's why Palkia is so good, right? Or one of the reasons that Palkia is so good, because a lot of people fill their benches. So you can just churn a ton of good damage across the board. And you know what you can do, Sean? You can use Alakazam to move those damage counters every turn, at least 20 damage.
yeah. I mean, I would talk about the Hisuian Arcanine. I'll just mention this one has an ability that you can move your fighting energy from one of your Pokemon to itself during your turn. And then it does an attack that does more damage for each fighting energy attached. I think the problem with this one is accelerating fighting energy is really awkward. There's not a lot of good stuff out there for that. And the amount that you actually need to get onto this to do enough to like take a knockout out of nowhere is like you need to basically have like 6 or 7 fighting energy in play to come out of nowhere.
And Arceus decks aren't running super rampant anymore like they used to, So it might just be a little bit too late. And if the ability was like accelerate an energy from the discard pile onto one of your Pokemon or something like a Malamar, that would be awesome. But you got to have it in play. And you know what? People aren't playing B, and they haven't been.
Yeah, because B is not good. Let's be frank. But
it's not good.
I could see this card being good one day if they print more support for fighting energy acceleration, because it's like nearly a Tapu Koko type situation, or there's other cards that can do similar effects. But I think the next one, all these fighting is such a weird typing because like it just gets so little support these days, at least I have found.
It's just not here as of late, I feel like. I feel like it's been a while since we've gotten like I mean, we did have the Hisuian Decidueye VStar that got a little bit of fame.
The Rapid Strike.
Yes, and Rapid Strike had a lot of fame too.
But Rapid Strike decks didn't really play much fighting energy. They played Rapid Strike or Single Strike energy. So,
yeah, they had that kind of acceleration and that kind of support. It's been a while since we've had regular fighting, but Sean, Coroctile, the Darkness 160 HP Stage 2 Pokemon, has the ability Sand Gang. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, and when this Pokemon is your active Pokemon and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you may discard a random card from your opponent's hand. What is Pokemon doing with all these abilities?
That's too many words. I'm looking at a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Like, there were so many clauses with that.
Yeah.
You have
when
to not
you do
only
this,
play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, it also has to be in your active, and it also has to be knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack. That's so many things.
I will say to discard one card at random for your opponent's hand, you have to give up a prize? That's silly. No. That's a big no for me.
The attack is double edge. So double edge, if you do not know, is an historic Pokemon attack that makes you do damage to yourself. So you can help your opponent knock you out really quickly.
Yeah. So, oh my.
I will say the Dedenne, Sean. Do you remember the Wombo combo?
Wait,
from
where
the
is
Pikachu
Dedenne?
in this set?
Do you mean the Morpeko?
That's what I meant to say, Morpeko. Do you remember the Wombo combo in this set with Pikachu, Dedenne, and Togedemaru? Morpeko is a part of that. For a lightning attack, this 60 HP dark basic Pokemon can use Peko Bomber. I think that's what it's called. You can use this attack only if your Dedenne used Dedenne Short during your last turn. Does 60 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So doing a little bit of setup damage. You get the option when you finish your Wombo combo, right, to do a bunch of damage to the active or a lot of damage across the bench.
Yeah, I like that. That's cute. It's cute. I mean,
I just wanted to mention that.
Hey, somebody can have a really good time making a very cute deck and confusing all of your opponents with how you have to sequence everything. They're like, what is happening?
I will say though, Sean, if you want a cute Pokemon to put in your deck, maybe consider Radiant Jirachi as part of the metal Pokemon, 90 HP basic Pokemon. Jirachi Pokemon have historically been very good. I think Amazing Rare Jirachi was like the least good Jirachi in recent memory that we have gotten, because Stellar Wish was so good. Even Jirachi V was really good, turning off Psychic Weakness for a time. This Radiant Jirachi's ability has Pass a Wish. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. That's any 3 cards you want to put in your hand for the next turn. That's pretty interesting. And Sean, this is the real one that I like. For colorless Stellar Doom, flip 2 coins. If both are heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. Use that coin flip in Stadium, attach the Twin Energy on. Who cares if you don't hit heads, because if it gets knocked out, you get a lot of cards anyways. This card is super cool.
I mean, if it gets knocked out, you know what you can do, Jake? You can go grab Rescue Carrier, Double Turbo, and do it all over next turn.
Exactly. You could...
Yeah, I will say.
And you can use, like you search your deck when your Pokemon dies, you just grab all these cards and you're like, okay, time to go again.
Right. I love this attack, because you think about, you remember the slow, I think it was Slow Bro, that had like the 3 strikes or whatever attack that for each heads you did 300 damage. But if you rolled 3 tails.
No, I think it was 100 damage for each head.
Yeah, 100.
Or something like that.
So if you got all 3, you did 300, which at the time would knock out anything.
Yeah,
but
literally anything.
You have to roll 3 heads to get that. And if you hit 3 tails, you lose the game. And I'm like,
I don't think there was there was Victini. There was a Victini reflip card. Yeah.
But if we have the Stadium, like this card, I really want to see people play this, because this card, it's just, if you're not playing any other Radiant Pokemon, just play this card. Just play a one-up.
Like even if, and you know, it's not even if you don't play any other Radiant Pokemon. Like if you just don't have a Radiant Pokemon that is super strong for you, right? You know, you don't need the Greninja, you don't need the Gardevoir, right? Or whatever. This son of a gun right here.
Yeah.
Super cool card. I like the card a lot, Sean.
Somebody's going to hit 2 heads on stream and everybody's going to go crazy at a regional. Just wait.
Everybody's going to go nuts.
Yeah, no, that's not great because it's a stage 2. Okay.
Do you want to talk about Magearna V?
Yeah, we can talk about it. For 1 metal, you got Gear Throw, does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. It's fine. For a metal colorless, 100 plus. If it has any special energy attached, it does 120 more. So 220 for 3 energy, which is fine.
Metal still has Metal Saucer in the format, so it's not like 3 energies is very hard to get.
No, that's true. But, you know.
I just don't know why you just wouldn't use Brave Blade.
I mean, the colorless, there is a colorless energy that allows you to take less damage, I think. So if you combo that with Cape of Toughness, you might be looking at a 2-prizer that doesn't get knocked out in one shot. But 220 is just, it's just an awkward number. I don't know why you would go through all that trouble, in my opinion.
Very pretty card, though. I like the art on this card. By the way, the card right before it, Togedemaru with the Togedash. Anyways, moving on, Sean. I'll keep reminding you of the Wombo combo.
Yes. Okay. I will say this Dragonite. The Dragonite is interesting only because there is the Regidraco that we're going to be talking about in a second. So this Dragonite, stage 2, don't worry about it. You'll never be evolving it. It has the second attack is what matters. Water, lightning, colorless, 180 damage, which is decent for a 1-prizer. But also, search your deck for 3 basic energy, attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So it's kind of a mini version of Arceus V-Star's attack. Slightly less powerful, but, you know, as you'll see in a second, you can combo that with another V-Star in this set. So, Jake, do you want to just go to that V-Star?
We'll talk about the V first. Regidrago V, 220 HP, basic dragon type Pokemon. It's got 2 attacks for 1 colorless. Heavenly Scream, discard 3 cards from the top of your deck and attach all energy discarded in this way to this Pokemon. So a lot of times, you know, Kyurem's ability, we've seen discard 1, attach. What was that? Colossal VMAX had that same thing, except as an attack.
And it would do damage based on that. 90 more.
Yes, it would also do damage. So Heavenly Screen discarding 3 cards and then attaching all of them. Kind of interesting, especially when you talk about the grass fire attack, Dragon Laser, 130 damage. This also does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so doing a little bit of spread. But the Regidrago also has a grass fire type of attack on the VStar, 280 HP VStar Pokemon. Dragon Dream. Choose the attack from a dragon type Pokemon in your discard pile and use it as this attack. So Dragonite, that one that you were talking about earlier, go ahead and use it and power up another Pokemon. You don't have to fulfill the energy cost on this Pokemon, and it's any dragon Pokemon in there. Giratina V-Star, just do a ton of bonkers damage through Giratina V-Star. So very, very cool. And a lot of kind of stuff that you can play around with, almost like Mewtwo VMAX. And the ability as the V-Star power, Legacy Star, once during your turn, you may discard 7 cards from the top of your deck. That's a lot of cards. But if you do, then you may choose up to 2 cards from your discard pile, reveal them, and put them in your hand. So you can use this as an accelerator, right, to be able to get these Pokemon in the discard pile, to be able to get whatever you want in the discard pile. And, you know, when you accidentally discard a V-Star, a V, you know, something important, well, just get it right back.
Yep. Yeah, it's cool because, like, you don't have to take a card that you discarded with the ability. You could use it later in the game and just go get whatever 2 cards happen to be in your discard. So if you're like, I'll discard 7 cards, I don't really care. The 2 cards I want were already in there. Just grab them back to your hand. I do like that it goes back to your hand. So actually a relevant ability there late game. So I think this is one of those cards that people are saying is like maybe one of the more strong attackers in the set. But Jake,
it's not the strongest.
I know. The card that everybody is freaking out about, and I was very surprised by this.
It's dominating Japan right now.
Yeah, is the Lugia V and V-Star, particularly the V-Star. The V-Star, 280 HP, so a beefy boy. Weak to lightning, which makes sense, but it's interesting because it's a colorless Pokemon that's not weak to fighting, and that can sometimes be useful.
Because it's flying.
Yeah. The attack that it has is 4 colorless, so it's kind of a lot, but it is 220, and you can discard a stadium in play, which is, you know, maybe annoying. And its ability is Assemble Star. You may use this during your turn, choose up to 2 colorless Pokemon from your discard pile, except for Pokemon with a rule box, and put them onto your bench. Now, I think we talked about this when we were talking about some of the pre-release cards, or like a couple of weeks ago. And I said this pairs really well with Archeops. So, Jake, do you want to say what Archeops does? Because I think that's an important piece to the puzzle.
Archeops is a stage 2 fossil Pokemon, Sean. It's a fossil Pokemon. I love me some fossils. It has the ability Primal Turbo. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 special energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. Comboing well with Lugia V-Star's V-Star power ability, you can put 2 Archeops on the bench, or honestly, another Pokemon, a Bibarel, right? You can put a colorless Bibarel on there to help get you a little bit of draw support. And because to be honest, you know, Archeops doing the 2 special energies, you may be able to do like a attachment of a double turbo and then go 2 powerful energies from the Archeops to be able to just do a ton of damage. Or you could just get 2 Archeops, and if you know you got all 4 powerful energies in the deck, just attach them on that sucker and get swinging with the Storm Dive. There's a lot of different things that you can do. Colorless Pokemon are very historically good at like support stuff.
Yeah.
And I mentioned Bibarel earlier. You know, Cincino is still in format. There are a lot of good options for Lugia to play around with, a lot of different ideas in a lot of different situations, I feel like.
Yeah, it's really, and I will say, I think this might actually pair well with the Weirdeer, I think, for like late game stuff. So anyways, yeah, so keep an eye out for like builds of this deck in the early weeks of the format. Lugia VStar looking really powerful in Japan. You know, it's not always the same format here in America, but it could be really interesting.
Well, it's gonna be coming close, right?
Yeah.
Because we're moving in the same rotation here soon.
The one card I will also point out from the colorless Pokemon set, Jake, is Altaria. Now, it is only a stage 1, so you could evolve it if you need to. Maybe it works in Lugia, maybe it works in a different deck. But Magical Echo for 2 colorless, move all damage counters from one of your bench Pokemon to your opponent's active. This is a wild attack because for 2 colorless on a 1 prize Pokemon, you can move all the damage from one of your 2 or 3 prize Pokemon completely off, put all that damage onto your opponent's active. Maybe it knocks it out, maybe it doesn't, but it's effectively a heal all the damage and do all of that as an attack to an opponent. That's really good. That's really good.
Especially because you can Archeops, right? It says up to 2 special energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon. So you can very easily, you know, if you can do this for a turn, you can just go find a single twin energy or a double turbo energy, right? Because you don't care about the damage negation. Because I think it's just moving damage counters. You're not doing actual damage. So double turbo's special effect of doing 20 less damage does not apply in Magical Echoes. So Altaria, you're right. You know, you can put as a one of in there and you can just negate a ton of different damage.
Yeah. I really like that card. So I was like perusing earlier and I saw that and I'm like, oh, that could be weird.
There's a lot of interesting things in here. Sean Candace.
Yeah, we're getting to the trainer cards real quick.
The trainer supporter Candace, the water type, or I'm sorry, the ice type gym leader. She's water in the Pokemon trading card game. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of water Pokemon and water energy cards you find in there and put them in your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck.
Irida is better.
Irida is just better.
Irida.
Anyways, moving on.
I'm just like, why did you print this card? Print something for a different typing. You have Irida.
You're fighting types.
You have Irida. You have Melanie. Water doesn't need another supporter. Anyways.
Sean, what else do you want to talk about?
Let's see. Oh, the Earth and Seal Stone. I think we mentioned this before, but this one has a really interesting. This is an item card that lets you use a V-Star attack. But you
it's
can
basically like the Z moves and Z crystals and all that.
So now this only works on a Pokemon V. You can't put it on a regular non-V Pokemon, but for 3 colorless, which is important because, you know, you can power that up. It can be any energy. You can do an attack that puts damage counters on all of your opponent's Pokemon V until they each have 100 HP remaining. And I like this one because if you can get this going, say your opponent has like a Mew, VMAX, has a really aggressive turn 1, turn 2, gets their whole bench filled with all of these, you know, Pokemon that are like 2 prize, 3 prizes, whatever. If you can use this and if your deck can build around a spread strategy where you're going to do 50, 100, however much damage in a spreading fashion every turn, assuming your opponent doesn't have like a mass heal deck, like some way to clear out all this damage, yeah, like I think this could go really well for somebody if you build the right deck and if the format works. So I just wanted to point this one out.
Goonping, Scuba Net, Goonping, Moonlight Shuriken, knock out 2 Genesect V. Easy. Not actually that easy, but there's a lot of things that you can try out with the Earth and Steel. Earthen, Seal, Stone. Sean, you mentioned the Emergency Jelly earlier. This is a Pokemon tool card that you said. Attach 1 Pokemon tool card to your Pokemon that doesn't have a tool card attached to it. At the end of each turn, if this card is attached to, has 30 HP or less remaining, has any damage counters on it, heal 120 from that Pokemon, then discard the card.
Yep. I think this is perfect for any single prizer that has that effect of like, if it would die, but it had no damage. Leave it alive with 10 HP. This is the perfect tool card for that. So if that's the kind of deck you want to build, get yourself a playset of this. Outside of that kind of a deck, I mean, maybe it's really a math problem. So many of the cards in this set are a math problem of like, does the math work in the format? Who knows?
It could be really interesting with something like the Hisuian Gudra.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's constantly negating different amounts of damage. So you can get to a point to where like, oh, you played into my trap card and you get 120 free healing.
Yeah. Jake, the Forest Sealstone, I'll just talk about real quick. It's a Pokemon tool card that gives a V an ability. The ability is half of Arceus VStar, so you can search your deck for a card. Important thing here, if you have a deck that relies on its abilities, cough, cough, Mew VMAX, and you're worried about power, you're worried about Path to the Peak, this ability on the item will still work because the ability is on an item, not on the Pokemon. So you'll be able to go get whatever stadium you need to bump Path to the Peak to keep doing your thing. So it's an important item
interaction.
Card. Yes, interaction to know. And it's an important card to consider if you're playing that kind of deck. So
a deck that just really needs abilities. Cough, cough, Mew VMAX. Anyways, Sean, Lance the Trainer is a supporter that pairs well with something like Regidrago. Search your deck for up to 3 dragon Pokemon and put them in your hand, then shuffle your deck. So not only being able to get your Regidrago V stars, right? But it could also get the Pokemon that you copy the attacks from.
Yep.
If you've got something like Regidrago's ability to discard, or well, no, that's the top 7 cards of your deck. Not necessarily your hand.
If you have Ultra Balls, right?
Yeah, Ultra Ball is a very popular card. Quick Ball is a very popular card. Lots of ways to discard cards.
Indeed. In terms of the other cards, I mean, I'm looking at the other trainers. The only other ones that I'm seeing, the only other trainer card for me is Serena. Serena is interesting. It has 2 effects. 1, discard 3 cards from your hand, up to 3. Draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. So it can be up to a draw 5, but the draw effect is kind of mitigated by what you have in hand, but you can kind of manipulate that as you see fit. But the fact that it's combined with a boss's order in the card, now it's a boss's order that only works on benched Pokemon V. So, yeah. It's got some, but I could see Serena being played. If you're a deck that's going to play 3 or 4 bosses order, I could see splitting it, right? And being like, sometimes you don't want the boss in hand. You're like, I would rather draw, but now I have a boss in hand and this is pointless. So I could see decks starting to play around with this, especially if the format is like very heavy V Pokemon.
Which I feel like it kind of is.
Yeah. So like, I think this is an interesting card to look at as like splitting it between that and boss, maybe.
Sean, there's a tool card on here that I think we talked a long time ago about, but it's been a while, so let's refresh people. Leafy Camo Poncho is in this set. It's a tool card. If the Pokemon this card is attached to is a Pokemon VStar or Pokemon VMAX, whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So with Serena and Boss's Orders now in the format, well, sorry, can't really do anything about that.
Yeah, hey, it's interesting.
Avery as well.
You know what I would have loved though? I would have loved if this also prevented cross switcher. Because to me, I'm like, the problem is cross switcher is still being played at some regularity. Until the Inteleon line is gone, I think cross switcher will still be a solid option. So I personally am not like super psyched about this just yet, but maybe give it like 6 months and this will see more play. But that is my.
I will say I said Avery, but now that I think about it, I don't think Avery. I think Avery would still go around this.
Unless you had only Pokemon that had these on it on the bench.
Which is impossible because you have 5 Pokemon on the bench. Or unless you had only 4 Pokemon and all 4 have this, but what's the... We don't have Adventure Bag in format. What's the likelihood that you're going to have that? But Sean, do you want to talk about any of the special energies that we've got in this set? Because let me tell you, there's a couple.
There's two. There's literally two.
There's literally only 2 special energies, but they're colorless energies with a Lugia coming.
That's true. So the regenerative energy heals 100 damage whenever you evolve a Pokemon V that the card is attached to. So really interesting if you have a Pokemon that is likely to get hit but not knocked out before you evolve it. I don't know what Pokemon that might be. Maybe Goodra,
Duraludon.
Right? Sure. But like that
any Pokemon that wants to heal.
Sure. Fine. But like the other one that people I think initially were really hyped about and then they read the rest of the text, Jake, is the V-Guard energy. This one says the Pokemon a card is attached to takes 30 less damage from the attacks of your opponent's Pokemon V. Now, if it stopped there, the card would be broken.
It'd be insane.
But Jake, what does the rest of this card say?
You can apply this effect of V-Guard energy more than once on a Pokemon. But okay, it's still, Sean, it still has value, right?
Oh.
It still has some good value.
Oh, 100%. Like, you think like on the Goodra or on any of these Pokemon, like even Lugia, right? Lugia's got 280 HP. You throw a Radiant Gardevoir in there, you throw this on there, and you throw a whatever the plus 30 HP card. I can't remember the name of it. The one that gives it a boost of HP.
Big Charm?
Big Charm. Yeah. Throw a Big Charm on there.
I was thinking of a special energy.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. But like you throw all that on there, and you're effectively giving it 80 more HP when it gets hit. And I'm like, that makes it a 360 HP Lugia. That's kind of a big deal.
And then you can Altaria it all off, Sean.
That's right. So
and just wipe out another Pokemon.
I think the card in a colorless energy deck, in a special energy deck that plays colors, I think it's a really good card.
You play one of these in Lugia for sure.
Oh yeah, you might play all 4. I don't know, but yeah, I think this is cool. I think though it's not nearly as broken as people considered. But
no, I just Sean, what's your favorite card in this set though?
I really like Lugia. I mean, it's probably the obvious pick, but like I think Lugia is it's an interesting card because I think it's been a while since we've seen a colorless archetype that isn't based around single prizers, you know? What was the last? I mean, Arceus. Arceus is really okay.
I was like,
never mind.
Do you want to take that back?
No,
am I editing this out of the podcast?
Never mind. I'll see my. It's late. It's late, Jake.
It is late. We are recording on Halloween, and it's 11:30 currently right now. Before we end this, I'll say my favorite card, and that's Unknown V. I think that card is going to cause chaos. I want to win with it.
Jirachi. Radiant Jirachi is my favorite. No,
Radiant Jirachi is really good too because it's just oh gosh, it's Radiant Jirachi is so great. Anyways, that is the review of what is this set? Silver Tempest coming out here in like a week and a half or so.
Yeah. I mean, you can already probably find cards in pre-release kits. So there you go.
Yeah, you can do your pre-releases. Show us the polls that you get over on Twitter at Metapod TCG. And also when the set comes out on November 11th. We'll see you later. Have a great rest of the day from the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. Anyways, let's go.